Today's episode is about designing a life and a business that gives you true freedom. It's about living from freedom first and creating a life into that by creating assets and wealth and stability that allow you to have the freedom that you want. I'm joined by Julie Talbot, who's a digital nomad that I've known for many years now. She lives currently in Thailand, but this is only a short stop for her as she travels the world with her kids and her husband, living a truly digital nomadic lifestyle. We talked about how this works with the family, the decisions she's made along the way to allow her to live this lifestyle that she chooses, and how other people can benefit from her learnings, whether you choose to be a true nomad or just live with more freedom. She now coaches and mentors people getting into property to create freedom from the start, to choose the right property strategy, to actually create freedom within the business from the beginning, rather than trying to build a business that creates freedom years from now, if at all. If you're interested in living with more freedom, with more presence, with more purpose, and just creating a lifestyle that you're truly inspired by and love living, then listen in today, as I think you will find this episode as inspiring as I did. Thanks very much. So the question is this: how do entrepreneurs like us, who don't have an endless supply of cash, how do we leverage the best apps, virtual assistants, automation tools and systems to scale our businesses, increase our profits, and have more time to do what we love to do each day? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name's Dr. Steve Day, and this is Systemize Your Success. Hey, Julie, thank you very much for coming on the show. I've really been excited about speaking to you because it's been a little while since we've had a chat. We've obviously got a bit of a history with regards to working together many years ago, and I was excited to hear from you and find out you're still on your amazing journey of freedom around the world. And I wanted to catch up, find out what you're doing, how you're helping people, and yeah, just really check in and see what we can share in line with in our thoughts in line with freedom and living the life we choose to live rather than be bound by the stereotypical normal things that people do. So welcome to the show, Julie.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Yeah, it's amazing to speak to you. I've been, I always love listening to your podcast. It doesn't feel like it's been that long at all. But when I was thinking, when was the last time I actually spoke to Steve, really? Didn't just hear him. It's been too many years.
Okay, very, very nice to see you. Cool. We were just chatting, as often I do, off camera, so to speak, and we got into a really interesting conversation. And I asked her, where are you living at the moment? And you mentioned you're in Thailand. So let's start off with just a quick intro to the world. Who is Julie Talbot? What do you do? And how do you do it from Thailand? And then we're going to get into the detail later.
Okay, so at the moment we're in Thailand, but I'm an ex-expat. So we moved overseas in 2009, moved to the Middle East. I was the trailing spouse. We moved with my husband's work, and then we were expats for 12 years. And then in 2022, just after COVID, we then went fully nomadic. So since then, we've been traveling full time. We took our kids out of school, and kind of the brief was really to go where the wind takes us. But I've been growing our property portfolio since we were expats, really. And when you figure out how to grow and manage a property business from 4,000 miles away, which is how far Abu Dhabi was from the UK, actually, if you move then to a nomadic sort of way, nothing actually changes because you're still running it online. You're still running it from thousands of miles away. The view's just changing more frequently. So we grow the property. We've been growing the property portfolio from wherever we are in the world as expats, and now a nomadic family.
Very cool. And you mentioned you also help other people to get into this world, to understand how to actually make this work in reality rather than just, a pipe dream.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And, we have some sort of clients on the property side of it who have done portfolio sourcing for years, but we don't take on new clients for that side of it. So how can I, help other people? It's from mentoring and guiding people who want to run a property business, but with location freedom baked in from the start. Because there's just this myth, I feel, that you get financial freedom first. And then once you've got financial freedom, then you can get time freedom and location freedom. And you can do that. There's nothing wrong with it. But you can choose location freedom first. And whilst you've got location freedom, then scale to financial freedom. And my sort of like route through the freedoms was to choose time freedom and location freedom first, and then have those while scaling to financial freedom. So yeah, that's what I help people with through my mentoring, really.
Yeah, and I love this. This is where I think we are massively aligned.
We
And
are.
yeah, I mean, I started this business with that exact reason in mind. So people that don't know, I quit my job as a doctor. So the career, the way to get financial freedom to then live with time and location freedom. And I quit my job to get both those things, to be able to work on my own terms, to be able to live wherever I want. For me, that was emigrating to Sweden. I now live in outside of Stockholm in Sweden. And if I'd done it the other way around, I would still be working in the UK now in a job that I wasn't loving, being trapped by that, and still thinking about, when am I going to get this freedom? And the answer would be never, because I was so far down that line,
Mm.
so far embedded and entrenched in the routines and the way of working in that sort of that lifestyle with all the expenses that come with it that you just add to your portfolio of expenses as everyone does, that you never figure out a different way. So I
Yeah.
absolutely love this. And I think that we were saying before as well is, and this is what I'd love to know how you did this, because my journey into property was a more typical one. I mean, literally, I left university. I had no other job, and I just bought property, and then remortgaged, bought another one, remortgaged, bought another one. But then I found myself totally overwhelmed by the running of it. I was doing everything there was to do with the property. I didn't have any staff, any agents, nothing. And so the idea of letting that go was huge for me. Oh, the shift it took. And it was like, just if my wife hadn't dragged me or tried to drag me out of the country, I probably would still be there, you know, still running it myself on the side of my medical career. So how do you do this differently? Like, how do you approach this? Like, for people listening who are like thinking of getting into property, but worried about it becoming another trap, another thing they have to do at the weekends and whatever. Like, how do you approach it that's different?
Yeah, so I suppose, my corporate background, just for full transparency, my corporate background, which, followed the traditional path, school, university, got a job, was all in business process design and organization design and things like that. So I and process improvement, like that was my world. And whilst I could, whilst I did it and I did enjoy it, it just it just didn't really set my heart on fire. And I wanted to find something else to do that was more entrepreneurial, that would give me more freedom, more flexibility, as like, got older and had a family and things like that. So that was really how I kind of like stumbled upon property, really looking at, just different businesses, just things that I could do, that I could actually make a business to step out of corporate world into. So my background in kind of like process design and organization design, I think really kind of like helped, because I could see that, it was a business and that you can design anything. Like I see any business, but property, because it's I'm quite passionate about it, like creating homes. It's something that I get a lot of purpose and joy from. Any business is just a machine, right? It's a sequence of inputs that you turn into outputs. The outputs is an income generating asset. The inputs are like yourself, your strategy, and all those sort of things. And there's some cogs that move, which turn the inputs into the outputs, and you move things along the conveyor belt, right? So the output excited me. Income generating assets that were homes for people. And so once I suppose, coming back to your question, which is where do people start? You probably tell I've started talking faster and getting a bit excited, because I love homes and housing and processes, I suppose, and things like that, and applying processes to a topic that I really enjoy. It's find something that you actually do enjoy and that you're passionate about. And if you have a business idea, then you can create a process around it, and you can make your machine work from anywhere in the world. Really, I suppose I would say for anything, like as nomads, we've met lots of people doing lots of different things, which you would never think would be, online businesses. Like I've met musicians who create music as they travel the world and record it, So there's just all sorts of businesses that you can do, that if you're passionate about it, there's that whole thing of like, well, if your why is big enough, you find a way. And for me, I wanted to live outside the UK and experience different countries and different cultures, but I also wanted to be creating homes and housing. Like I just kind of like in my heart, they were just two things that I wanted to do, travel the world with my kids and provide homes. So, if you have that kind of like crazy, irrational idea, but that you're emotional about, then you're motivated to find a way to do it.
Yeah, very much so. And I think that's, I think where lots of people that I meet, no matter where they're on their journey, that they often get into the business of whatever they fall into or whatever they feel is going to make them some money. Like you're saying before, the financial freedom first. And the challenge of that is when it gets tough, or when you realize it takes longer than you expect, or whatever that comes up that you didn't expect or don't really want, then it's actually hard to keep going if you've not
Yeah.
done it, like you say, from a place of passion and actually something you feel strongly about and behind. And I think that, like, one of the shifts that I think that I've done, we were talking before about the coaches that I'm working with or have been working with for the past couple of years now. And when I sort of started falling out of love with my work and started getting into the existential sort of thinking of why the hell are we here? What are we doing and all this for? We're just, dots in the universe or whatever. And trying to actually realize that actually what we do can make massive, massive impact, and not just on
Yeah.
the people we meet today, but also on future generations. And I remember starting my business and thinking about, someone asked me about, what do you want? I was like, oh, I want to leave a legacy. I remember saying this, and it's like, but a legacy that my kids will be proud of. It's like what I used to say. And rather than just a financial legacy or financial burden, as I used to call it, like people, I was in property systems coaching, as you know, at the beginning. And what I saw people do was build these big portfolios, which were poorly managed and just time-sucking leeches. And it wasn't a legacy. It was actually a burden. It was actually
Yeah. Noose.
anything but a gift. And yes, it
Mm.
could generate revenue, but it didn't give any joy. And I think that one of the things I get loads of passion out now is letting people help finding people to realign what they do with the greater purpose, and to
Mm.
realize that actually if you can change who you are today, like you've done, massive example of this, like literally just changed everything to live the dream that you want to live, and that the people you meet are going to be massively positively affected by the decisions you've made, and those ripples of impact across, like, just this conversation I'm having with you now. I'm thinking, I'm going to ask you in a minute, how the hell do you do this with his kids? Because, having two young kids, I'm like, this is impossible for me, but it can't be because I know people that do it. So
Mm.
maybe that's a place we could go now. So if you're like me and you would dream of doing something like this, obviously there's the convincing the spouse. That's half the challenge. But actually that comes, I think, from providing a not a legitimate, that's the wrong word, providing a path to do this that's actually reality and not just a pipe dream, not just something that, oh, I want to go traveling. It's like, no, but what does that actually mean? So, how do you do this with kids? How do you take your kids out of school and actually ship them off around the world? What they feel about it? Do they have challenges? Or, how have you experienced it?
There are so many questions in there, Steve. And I think, really it comes back to, like, when you're going to do anything life changing, you kind of just got to, sometimes just got to, you're never going to have everything figured out, I suppose. When you want to do something, you kind of just have to do it, and kind of like accept that not everything's going to go according to plan, but part of the journey, the experience is kind of like, figuring it out, really.
I completely agree with you. Like moving to Sweden for me, total unknown, no idea what was going to
Mm.
happen. Would I be able to survive my business, etc.? What I had no plan. Then my dad died like 3 months later, who was my business partner in the UK running my properties. So I went from, oh, it's going to be challenging to, oh shit.
Yeah.
How do I do this now? So yeah, things happen. But then one of the things that, like, now, like thinking about, okay, like the nomad lifestyle. So thinking about that specifically, but actually doing that with kids. I was chatting to one of my clients today who runs, I think, on Nomad cruises we were talking about before, and they have loads of families on that boat. People that, like
Mm.
yourselves, you're living abroad without conventional schooling. Like, how does that work?
Oh, it's amazing. I sometimes wonder how we ever found time for school, to be honest. I was talking to someone the other day who said, how do you find time? How do you find time to do things? And I was like, well, I was like, how do you find time to do things? Because you have the school run, you've got to make packed lunches, you've got like kids parties at weekends, you've got homework to do. Like, we have none of that. So actually there's like all this time that you get back. So I mean, we stepped into the whole unschooling kind of world. We started off doing online school at a reduced number of subjects, because we wanted to, it still be similar for the kids, like, so we kind of like stepped from full-time school to like online school in 3 subjects, where we were teaching, doing like, delivering the recorded lessons and things. And then after about a year and a half, we just felt like it was just restrictive. So then we stepped away from those 3 lessons. And it's weird when you sort of like take the curriculum away from kids, it's kind of like scary saying, right, okay, kids, so now you don't need to do English, maths or science anymore. But I said, you've got to learn. So we've got to have, projects and ideas, and we're going to be, still learning about things, but we can go where your curiosity wants to go. And we're in places, we've just spent 4 months on the Silk Road, right? So traveling around Central Asia, and we don't plan the lessons, but the kids have got to be curious and want to learn. And one of my kids got hugely, it was actually the kids' idea for why we went there. One of them really wanted to go and explore this section of the Silk Road, learn about the currencies. And they consequently then, because they've got the time, got really into empires and Zoroastrianism and ancient religions. And you just like, if we forced a curriculum and forced 4 hours a day to get through all these different subjects and just like checklist of things, there wouldn't be the kind of the brain space to have that curiosity. So it takes a lot of trust in a way. You've kind of like got to believe in humans, that humans can be curious, whether they're little humans or big humans. But as adults, we find things to do that interest us. So if you take away what you're forcing the kids to learn, and then they're just curious beings, and they go in their own direction. And we have twins, so it's fascinating to see the different directions that they go in and the different things that interest them. I mean, it still feels scary to me to say, like, our kids, don't go to school anymore. But then they're learning so much, and they come up with things. I'm like, how do you know that? Like, where did you acquire that knowledge from? Like, we've spent 4 months traveling around Central Asia, not really interacting with, a lot of people. So where have you acquired this knowledge from? And it's amazing to see where they get stuff from.
Yeah, I can believe it though. How old are your kids, Julie?
They're 12 now, so they would be in, I think, starting second year of high school sort of age.
Yeah, so they're a bit older than my eldest is 9, going on 10, and but my youngest is 3.5, and his pace of learning, his interest in the world, like he doesn't need a curriculum. Like they don't have one at school, obviously at 3.5 years old, but the rate that he is absorbing knowledge and his like you say, just learning and wanting to know stuff. Like he sits there and watches YouTube from time to time. And he comes back and he's learned, like he's totally bilingual. And the English is okay, I speak English to him, but his vocabulary is way beyond anything I've ever taught him. And his knowledge about stuff is just like, so you can just see that if you don't actually hinder people's opportunities for experimenting the world, then why wouldn't they just keep on learning that way? That's fine. I've never really thought of it from that perspective before. I never even thought about the unschooling thing as an option. I was thinking, how do you get them into school and have any routine with it? But the answer is you don't. And that's fascinating.
Yeah, and it's hard.
Yeah.
And what's hard, like the term unschooling in itself is quite unusual, because it's us as parents, as adults who've been through the school system, who you kind of like repeat what you know, right? So I assume you went to school, you went to school and you go to school for 5 days a week for 6 hours a day, and you have homework, and then you have weekends, and it's 6 weeks, then it's a half term. Like, this is just what you do. It's like kind of like it's ingrained into you. So to do something different feels awkward and wrong almost, but that's not how humans necessarily best learn. That was a system that was brought in a few hundred years ago, for practical reasons, well, you need to go into the history of it, but for practical reasons, so that adults could work, there was somewhere for the children to go. So if you can kind of step away from, we're talking way more about schooling now than property or business, aren't we? But it's such a big thing, like if you can let go of all these things that we just assume about how people learn. And being in Asia is amazing, because you see how how things are done differently. But it's more unschooling parents, really, because as humans, for hundreds of years, we didn't really learn by going to school for 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, and that's a pretty new thing. There's a great guy who's done a few TED talks. If you've come across him before, Sir Ken Robinson. He's done some really, really great just like talks on education and how, schools impact creativity, and that system works for some people, but it doesn't work for everybody. It's a system for mass education, really.
Yeah. I mean, being as they call it, a neurodivergent guy, so bit of ADHD, then, I look back and think, I mean, I cope with school quite well. Like the routine was useful for me because it sort of gave me something to do and to focus on, but it was also incredibly disruptive and not something in many ways that was probably the most beneficial. But I think about what I do now as a career and how much joy I get from having this more nomadic type of existence, choosing when I work, who I work with, the type of work I do. Going back to the point, like I choose what I learn every day. It's up to me, and I don't never stop learning. It's not that I have to learn anything new. I just enjoy it, and so why wouldn't other people do the same? But the point was like, yeah, it's the conditioning that we have that this is the way it's always been, this way it's got to always be. And that's just on so many levels the hardest thing for us as adults, whether it's breaking free and getting into property and working with someone like you, learning how to live anywhere in the world on a passive income, relatively passive income, or like me, like working with someone like me who shows you how your current business model, whatever it is, can actually give you that complete nomadic lifestyle. It's just about redefining what you think work is. It's all
Yeah.
about this reconditioning. So
Yeah.
yeah, totally.
And it's the whole, I mean, there's the whole, if you think you can or think you can't, you're right. The Henry Ford sort of thing. I think that's who said it. And it really is that, if you can, we can tell ourselves that anything is possible or that anything isn't possible. There's another favourite person of mine is Bethany Hamilton, the Hawaiian lady who lost her arm in a shark attack, and she was a professional surfer and then got back into professional surfing, but one armed. And you just think, we can do anything that we set our mind to, that we tell ourselves we can or we can't. And not everyone wants to live, nomadically or with freedom, but it's that, we can live in the way that we want to if we choose to design our lives that way.
Yeah. And I think, as entrepreneurs, I think probably most of us, like there's a huge percentage of entrepreneurs that have got brains wired in a way that makes them into the creative risk takers, excitement seeking type personalities. They're actually up for all the things we're talking about here. That's actually the nature of being an entrepreneur. It people like my wife, for example, who likes stability, who likes the knowing that actually, we're going to be able to pay the mortgage next month, rather than me that's like, oh, we'll figure it out. We've got a credit card, it'll be okay. Back in the day, thankfully not now, but that was me for many, many years. And that's the kind of people that you meet when you're an entrepreneur or a nomad. You meet these people who are just like us, who actually see the world differently to, in inverted commas, the norm. And that's a huge number of people, a huge population.
Yeah.
But yet, all of those people, not all of them, many of those people, the majority, I would argue, are living the life of, the people, maybe like my wife, who actually like that stability and like that predictability. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a different way of existing.
There is nothing wrong with it. And someone said to me the other week, and it really made me pause. She's known me for a while, and she said to me, "But your life's so unstable, Julie." Like, she seemed like genuinely worried for me, and I was like, "My life's not unstable at all." I was really kind of like taken
got a
back
huge property portfolio. What are you on about?
well, she was meaning like, you change countries all the time, and like, you're moving around, and it's really unstable. And I was like, we change countries all the time, yes. We have 2 backpacks with all of our stuff in, yes. But you can create stability in your day to day, in in your week to week. Like stability doesn't necessarily mean stability in your life doesn't mean being in one place. Like it's important for our kids that we have a stable like life and routine, but moving around doesn't sort of like stop that. You can create stability through like the structure of your day, through the structure of your weeks, through like when you celebrate holidays and how you do things, like where you are and how much you move around. And I could see our life through her eyes, right, as to how she could see it was unstable. But I was like, but it isn't, like every Sunday we do this, every Thursday we do that, we walk 10,000 steps a day. Like there are these kind of like things that you can just do anywhere, which give you that stability. Like home isn't a place.
Was she British, this person, Julie?
She lives in the UK, yeah.
I was just thinking because this is, the whole home is your castle sort of thing. It's very much like, the people when they talk about, oh, this is my forever home. It's all that sort of like, because there's a big culture in the UK, and I'm born and bred in the UK, and this is very much the way I grew up. There's a big culture around the house being like the fixed thing that you get, and it's the stability and all that. And there's a huge fear, I think, of taking that away. And and suddenly, okay, well, I've got no base, I've got no home. Like
Yeah.
but actually that's the freedom. That's like the moment it becomes, oh my God, that thing isn't shackling me anymore.
Yeah. And that home is a feeling. It is who you, and it's just how you see things. Like it can be who you're with and where you are. And to some people, sorry, it can be who you're with and what you do. It doesn't have to be where you are. It can be, but it doesn't have to be.
And there's so many, I mean, we're talking about choice here. We're talking about, well, I guess everything's a choice, but like many people, their careers force them to move. Like whatever, every year, every few months, even if you're in the army or any of the military services, sorry, if you're in a doctor, for example, my training, one of the reasons I didn't actually want to do medicine was I didn't actually want to be dictated by somewhere else where I was going to live every few months for 5 years. It's not that actually, it's not that I didn't want it to be in the well, for the career choice. It was like yeah, the idea of moving wasn't the problem for me. It was the idea of being told where I was going to go. So that's a difference as well. So I think what we're talking about here is something like this is a total choice thing. It's not like someone's forcing you to move around, or it's like, no, this is the life you want to have. And I'm sure there's some I'm sure there'll be some element of just disbelief that it's even possible for many people. But obviously you're living proof that it is. And as I said before, one of my clients, he runs cruises for digital nomads. He's got 200 people right now on a boat sailing across the Pacific Ocean. I think they've just gone through Tonga or Fiji and all that. And they are all on the boat for a month with their kids or whatever. And it's like there's a whole world out there of people who do it.
Yeah, we organised in the last year, and again, this is not properly related, but we've been organising like world schooling hubs basically for the travelling families in different places. And we did a couple in Kazakhstan over the summer. We're doing a couple in Nepal next year, just to create pockets of community in different places and to like explore a place where you're going to be with some other families, because it's great to meet people who live in a place, and it's great to meet people who are international living in a place, but it's also good just in terms of how do you do this with kids and give some sort of stability. It's important for kids to have like mirrors of other people who are living the kind of weird life that they're living. So for them to be in contact with other people who don't go to school and who move around all the time, and whose parents were run online businesses so that they can be anywhere and it's not a big deal, is an important kind of like thing to have in in the routine, shall we say.
And how do kids get on with finding friends and having relationships at their sort of peer level?
If my kids were here now and they heard that question, they'd be rolling around the floor laughing, because it's something that I think a lot of people worry about or perceive about homeschoolers, as well as sort of like living like this, the social side of it. I mean, they just know so many people and meet so many people wherever we are. We've been in, in Japan, on mountains, in like rural areas where there's practically nobody around, but there's still people, as well as bears and wild boars and things like that. There's still people, and as long as you are happy to talk, even if you can't speak the language, then you can, create relationships with people. And it's what we've done. Like, okay, they might not always hang out with 12-year-olds because they're 12 years old, but we quite happily, hang out with people of children and adults of all ages. So yeah, sometimes we actually have to have days where we stay at home and don't see people, because no matter where we are, we just find community or people, whether it's, locals or international or expats or the traveling families. It's yeah, there is way more socialness than you would expect.
Yeah, no, I can see it though, and I think again, it's just breaking the idea that it should be done any particular way. And I think
Yes.
like, the word should is just be, if we could just cross that out the dictionary, that would be brilliant. Because there's no right or wrong for anything.
Yeah. Well, one of my kids said to me the other week, we were somewhere, and she just said to me, "Oh, come on, Mum, let's go out and do that thing and just see what magic happens." Because, I'm quite comfortable just sort of like, you just speak to people, really. If you're in a coffee shop, or sometimes if you're standing in a park, you can just strike up a conversation with people. And all right, not everybody speaks back, but sometimes people do, and we tend to like to be in places for a period of time, a couple of weeks minimum, really. So it's quite easy to become a regular somewhere, and then to get to know, just to create routines where people know you. And then it's kind of amazing, really, just the relationships that you can, and the interactions that you can have with people. We even this summer stayed in a hostel, which sounds quite surprising for a family. But we stayed in a hostel, and we had like our private room there. So consequently, the kids were meeting just all sorts of people who travel in hostels, and baking cakes for them and having conversations with them. And it's just seeing the conversations they were having, seeing the people they were meeting. I was just so grateful that they didn't go to schools, that they could be experiencing some of that type of thing.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I imagine very much so. Kids just, they're so adaptable, and these kids in general, I mean, are so adaptable that as soon as you take them out of one type of environment or routine, they just adapt and learn how to thrive in this new way of living. And I mean, it's just, yeah, it's cool. It's just amazing to speak to you, and just to the extremes, that not the extremes, that sounds like it's, crazy, but like how far you've taken this to something that is just so natural for you. It's obviously like the right path for you, just speaking to you since when we met 8 years ago, thereabouts, and I think that, when you meet people in business, you often meet people and they go sometimes from one idea to the next, or they're just in and out of passion with it, whatever. And I think what the people that I've met along the way, who, like yourself, are as excited today to talk about, what they're doing, your life you're living, etc., are all people that have inadvertently or intentionally built their business, their life around freedom, around
Mm.
doing something they are not just passionate about, but that gives them back, or is intertwined with the way they live, to actually serves their lifestyle rather than the other way around.
Yeah, and this is sort of what I really, really enjoy working with people on the mentoring side, and on the property side, because I feel that there's a lot of people trying to find the best strategy and the right strategy and the best area, and the right area. And my kind of take is, there is no one best strategy, there is no one right area, but we can find the right one for you, based on what excites you, based on what works best for you, based on the freedom that you want, based on the life that you want. And then you're actually going to stick with it, because it's something that you really really want to do. You're not just doing it because it's the one best that that everyone says you should do, or that you read most about, or is the latest hot topic, or something like that. So yeah, I get so much you know um enjoyment, I suppose, from being able to help people step into what freedom looks like for them, and create the property portfolio and the way of running their portfolio that works for them. And it isn't the same for anybody. So I find it fascinating when people are trying to find the best way. I'm like, no, there is no one best way.
Yeah. And I love that. one of the things you also mentioned in the questions, question suggestions, just suggested questions or whatever you call it that I asked you to do was the word superpower. And
Yeah.
this is like leaning into that. And I'm a huge believer in focusing on your superpower, like unleashing your superpower by actually figuring out what the hell that is. And there's a lot of the work that I've been doing with my mentors is about aligning the work that I'm doing with my greatest strengths and realizing that my greatest strengths are often built on your greatest challenges. That's why they become your strengths, because you have to overcome
Mhm.
something. And this means that everything that I set out with my intention or my thought about why I do the work I do was built on, I think, the other people's opinions, or my perception of what other people think I should be doing, of what I'm hearing other people do, of trying to emulate others. And there's only this work I'm doing now, it's deep work now, which leads back into what you're talking about, which is actually rather than thinking about what the best strategy is, rather than thinking about all the things, is figure out what you actually want from the business, what will make you happy. Figure out like what you're actually good at and what you're going to stick at, and then figure out which type of business or which type of property strategy
Mm,
fits that, not the other way around.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's it. And it's so it's easy to say, and it's hard. It's harder to do. But if you, I suppose, if you attach yourself to that idea of like, well, it's possible then, so then 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 you can do it. And it's why I get so much joy out of helping people with this, because it's just possible, and there's a strategy for everybody out there, or there's a business for everybody, because not everyone wants a property business, right? But if you know you're into property, then there's a property strategy out there for you. Like, I don't necessarily love serviced accommodation. I've tried it, but I couldn't get excited about it. But some of my clients, they get so much joy from it, whether it's because they like creating a space for families to come together, to be able to make memories together, but they've got that purpose and they love it. Or I've got other clients who might do serviced accommodation because they really enjoy the design, the creativity that it gives them, and it gives them an outlet for that. And if that's the thing that excites them, then we can make it work around that, because they've got this like emotional sort of like reason for wanting to do it, not just like, oh well, that's the one where you make the most money, or that's the one that's meant to be the easiest. We're all different, so easy and things, they're all just different for each of us.
Yeah. Just think about property strategy. So I have one of my clients as well. He's also supports digital nomads, and he's based in Spain, in Palma, and he basically sets up apartments for digital nomads to live in. And he's doing this he's building like a franchise basically. It's going to be set up with centers all over Europe originally, and the world eventually. And but the reason I say this is because he basically sees his business as a software business, as a technical business. So his interest, his passion is around, building a like massively systemized technical AI automated business. That's like what he talks about his business being. The fact it's in property is almost, I think, inconsequential to him when you
Mm.
speak to him sometimes. So it's like you just he's found something he's truly passionate about, building this scalable, reproducible machine. But it happens to be developing awesomely cool, like affordable properties for nomads, for
Hmm.
digital nomads. And it's just like, so it combines these two things together. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's finding those things that you're passionate about. I remember back when I was in this corporate meeting I was probably mid-20s or something like that, and there was an icebreaker session, and the icebreaker session was, everyone had to just draw a picture and then present it back to introduce yourself to people. And I was kind of like at the time where I knew I wanted to leave, so I felt like a really big fraud, but I hadn't quite figured out what the next thing was. So I'm sat there thinking, she's just having a bit. I just want to surf around the world. I just like that. That was all I could think, surfing around the world. So I drew like surfing around the world. And then, you have that moment of truth where you put your picture on the table and everyone else starts presenting, and everyone else is like, I want to buy a house and I want to have children. And I'm like, oh crap, they're going to know that I'm about to resign. I'm just surfing around. But
Did he get sacked?
I didn't know, like, it wasn't to me, it wasn't obvious to everybody else that this is where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
But my point is, sometimes we kind of like feel in our, just know in our heart the thing that we want to do. So clearly, even back then, like I had this, desire to be location free, but still be able to be working wherever I was. And we've kind of, if you've got that, just if that idea is strong enough, then you can find a way to, make it work, design the machine that gives you the ability to do that. Because it's not about not working, right? It's about being able to take your work wherever it is you want to be.
Absolutely. And with that said, I mean, like, if you want to do this in property, anyone listening, Julie is your woman to speak to. And if you don't want to do it in property, speak to me.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. We've got the whole world covered.
We have. We have there's some sort of collaboration for us, Steve. Honestly, I swear it. When I first, saw what you were doing in like systemizing and everything, I remember just being like, wow, you'd created what I was like imagining in terms of like the systemization and things like that. And I'd actually created in other businesses the way of systemizing and how you'd done things, but in other businesses. So it was uncanny when I met you. It was like, wow.
Yeah,
I love what you do.
Our early conversations were always lots of fun. And with that in mind, I remember you once posted, and this is sort of a future shout out to everybody else who listens to this. But you once posted about using Recruit Right, and I remember this today because it was one of the best early reviews I got about the
Oh,
Recruit Right hiring system, and it really made my day. And I still remember to this day, and I probably remember some of the wording of it because it really really hit home for me emotionally. But I've just been what I've been spending my past couple of weeks working on is AIing the hell out of it. So
ooh,
I will let you in on the beta, and you can have a little play. And just
yeah.
basically, using AI to take away all the bits the barriers that people got with actually getting started with the recruitment piece. And when I'm talking recruitment, for anybody listening, I'm talking about hiring remotely so you can live remotely. Like this, it still works for hiring people in house and people use it, but that's not what I built it for. I built it for running businesses, be able to live anywhere in the world and having a global team. That was the philosophy of building it. And so, yeah,
Yeah, no, I remember that, and that system as you did it was amazing. Just following the process, the fact there's going to be an AI aspect to it is brilliant. Anybody listening, like get that from you, but get on your wait list for whatever it is.
yeah.
But it's,
I'll be launching that as a standalone very very soon. So yeah, keep listening if you want to know more. It
interesting.
wasn't meant to be a big pitch for the recruit. Like, we got it in, yay!
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that. So something I wasn't even going to talk about, but I have like my most important process, if you like. One of my most important processes is viewings, being able to view properties, and for me that was the light on moment for being able to just you know do anything that I needed to be able to do. It was creating this like viewings process. And I was actually experimenting the other day with like, so I've got like a mini course on that, just like how to have like how to put a viewings process in place. It's just like a short workshop. But I was experimenting with that the other day, like could I put that into AI? Could I make that into an AI resource so somebody would use it? So I'm not nowhere near thinking about launching anything to do with that. But it was a thought in my brain, and I was experimenting with how it would look and trying to make it work. So
Yeah,
funny.
one of my clients is a structural engineer, and so one of the things he has to do is go and do reports, and so basically go and do building surveys and all the rest of it. And so we were discussing the other day. He's been playing around with using AI to basically look at the high res photos and create reports off the back of them, and
Mhm.
building up the knowledge base to actually make those reports pretty much good to go. And that's doing structural engineering work. So, like from a
Wow.
viewing's perspective, if you can get somebody to go in there with a camera, you don't need the measurements. So, like one of my
Yeah.
good mates, like it's like a Matterport competitor, and they do like cameras for about a couple hundred quid, which is a 3D scanning camera. But not scanning, sorry, a 3D camera, 360-degree camera, but not scanning because that's the difference between Matterport. But for viewings, for like doing digital walkthroughs, so you can basically walk through
Mhm.
and open doors and all the rest of it. It's like a couple hundred quid, and it does exactly the same job as like these 5 grand cameras from Matterport. So for landlords or people
Wow.
that want to do remote viewings, they're absolutely ideal. And again, I'm not trying to pitch this. I'm just
Yeah, yeah.
if you want his details, and let me know.
Ideas.
We'll speak after. But
Yeah.
iTours, that's the name of the, I can't remember his name,
Mhm.
iTours, if anyone's interested. Anyway, and little pitch for you there, James, plug. And the point was that with AI now, like the reality is that you could get anybody to walk in, stick that camera in the room, walk out, press a button, go around like that,
Mm.
and the AI will then do whatever you want, create the descriptions for you for walking around the property, give you, like whatever you need, like do the inventories for you. Like that's the reality we're getting to. So the jobs that used to be really annoying, having to get someone to come in, like go and do tick box inventories, or you're relying on them being reliable, because if you screw it up and then your tenants come, like you can't get the money back off your tenants, all this stuff. There's
Mhm.
reality checks for many landlords when they try and get other people to help them do it, which I had these teething problems when I went remote. They're never going to do it as well as you. They're never going to
Mm.
spot, they're never going to look under the bed or whatever it is. Using AI now is there's massive opportunities to like streamline stuff and just make it, that little bit better without actually requiring to have somebody massively capable. So
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. There's so many options.
bit of a
So many
tangent.
options.
There you go. Cool. Julie, I would love to keep chatting with you, but not unfortunately, it sounds terrible. I've got to go and pick up my kids.
You've got school run.
I've got the school run. I don't live unfortunately, I don't live the no schooling or the anti-schooling. What was it called? The
Unschooling.
unschooling, that was it, not anti-schooling. So I must go and get them before they think I've deserted them. But before I do, tell people how they can get hold of you if they want to know more about how you could potentially mentor them into creating a wonderful lifestyle like you have.
Yeah, well, I'm on Instagram at Julie Rose Talbot, and I have a simple checklist, three simple steps to start or scale a property portfolio with location freedom from outside the UK. So that's a good, simple, short place to start. It's on my Instagram sort of like page if you want to grab that and send me a bit of a message and say hi as well. I try and keep some time ring fest from here and there to do like 50-minute calls when we can. We can't always, it depends where we are. But we're in Thailand at the moment, having a bit of quiet time. So I've got some time ring fenced. So yeah, check out my Insta page
Cool.
and see what we've
And
got.
so it's Instagram.com, obviously, and then
Mm-hmm.
Julie Rose Talbot. And then
Yep,
you've also got
actually, it was.
bit.ly, so bit.ly
Mm-hmm.
/ 3 simple steps to freedom.
Yep. That is on my bio as well on Instagram. So you can grab it from there.
There you go. Before you go, Julie, I have to ask you one question. Ask everybody this. This
Cool.
podcast is called Systemize Your Success, but what does success mean to you and why?
Success is, for me, it's being able to be present for my family and grow and run a business that I'm really proud to be able to be in, which is creating homes, and to be able to do them both from wherever we want to be in the world. That is success for me at the moment.
Do you know what I love about your answer, Julie? It's in the present tense. It's not what success will be, it's what success is, and you're living it. So amazing. Cool.
Thank you.
Lovely to catch up with you, Julie. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you. And thank you, Steve, for everything you do. I find what you do so inspiring for, any small businesses and larger businesses. And I love the way you just present systemizing and making it so accessible. So thank you for everything you do. And please keep doing it.
Oh, thank you very much. Cheers, Julie.
Bye.